rising out of the Atlantic waters to a height of over 700 feet and running along the coast of Clare for almost 8 miles, the Cliffs of Moher were formed over 320 million years ago. Today they form part of the Burren and the Cliffs of Moher UNESCO Global Geopark. This summer, the Cliffs will do more than welcome the 1.5 million expected visitors to enjoy the spectacular scenery at one of Ireland's most visited destinations. They will play host to our next Stories and Sips Whisky Club release. A unique whisky collaboration with Corry Irish Whiskey, full of tales, full of tastes, and indeed a bit of tourism as well. Louise McGuane, founder of Corry, grew up near the Cliffs and shares with us a sense of their role and importance in her life.
So we're here at the Cliffs of Moher. So this is pretty close to Corry. If you follow the coastline around, you will hit Doonbeg, and we're just a little bit inland from that. So we're about a half an hour away from here. And the Cliffs of Moher are an extremely important sort of landmark here in County Clare. They're a very big draw. It's one of the things that County Clare is famous for, along with Irish music and now whiskey, of course.
Oh, yeah.
A man called Cornelius O'Brien was responsible in the 1800s for kind of developing the Cliffs of Moher as a site of beauty, essentially. He realised that we had something very special here. He was very community minded, so he decided to build a viewing tower, which is now known as O'Brien's Tower. And in the 1800s, people would travel here from Listonvarna on horse and cart. He would bring them into the tower, and they would have high tea, probably a little drop of whiskey, and they'd be entertained by a bagpiper. When I founded Corry, I always had this mad idea of having some casks up at the Cliffs of Moher. I never really knew how I was going to do it, but it was in my original business plan, believe it or not. And then I approached the Cliffs about 9 months ago, I suppose, and I proposed them what I thought was a mad idea, but they went for it.
And we're here today because the mad idea has turned into a bit of a reality. So should we go and take a look at what's going on at O'Brien's Tower?
Let's do it. O'Brien's Tower. This was built by Cornelius O'Brien in the late 1800s, and this was originally just made for viewing the Cliffs of Moher and for pleasure. They would have served high tea in here. They no doubt would have had a bit of whiskey. So we decided to bring up 9 50-litre casks. All of these have a mix of pot still, single malt and single grain whiskies in them, and then they are divided across a number of different sherry casks. So we've got Palo Cortado, Amontillado, Oloroso and PX essentially. These casks all come from Toneleria del Sur, which is our cooper in Montilla, Spain. And they've been specially selected for us. The wines that were in here prior, specially selected, and had been seasoned for 18 months prior to coming here. And they will be here for a few months just to finish off. You'll get some pretty rapid aging or rapid flavour extraction from the smaller casks, and the result will be some really interesting whiskies. So we're going to monitor them very, very closely. Each individual cask we're going to monitor very closely, and then we're going to select we're going to select the casks that we really, really love, and we're going to bottle them as the Cliffs of Moher whiskey. The first person I called when I had this project in mind was you, as you know, because you know I love the club members. I know they'd love this. This is going to be a really interesting, unique, authentic piece of County Clare. You know, Corry is firmly based in County Clare. I've always wanted to mature whiskies around the county. This might lead to other things in the future. This is going to be a really unique sort of piece and sense of place of County Clare and of Corry that we'll make available to your members.
That's amazing. So over the next few months, while they sit here sleeping, aging, maturing, infusing the old salt air off the Atlantic Ocean, we're going to do some events, maybe some tastings. We're going to sample the whiskies, see how they're progressing, and then as it gets closer to their final few weeks here, we'll make selections on casks available and make them make those particular profiles available to our Whiskey Club members in the United States, which is going to be amazing. It's an amazing project for us to be part of, and another collaboration, exciting, with Corry.
It is, and the fun thing about this is, we'll taste all of these. We know what the baseline spirit is like. They are going to evolve while they're here. So we're giving you guys free reign of what you want to choose from, so you can pick the best of the best, I think, ultimately. We just have to keep a very close eye on how these are maturing and keep tasting them, which is a very tough job, of course, but I think Barry is up for it.
And we might look for some volunteers as well. If there's any of our club members happen to be in Ireland while these are sitting here, we might be able to time things correctly with a tasting. We'll see what we can do. So let us know if you're in Ireland over the next few months, and we'll see if we can combine all those things together. So let's have a little walk around the tower and explore it a little bit.
Let's go upstairs.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. To everything around you, and this might seem like why would you bother doing this kind of a project, because I could do the same thing technically down at our place in Corry Clare, but there's just, you have to ground whiskey in a place, and we're ultimately the approach that you have to making whiskey and the people that are involved in it and where it's from, for me, is very important. So collaborating with something as iconic as the Cliffs of Moher, I'm very proud of this place. It represents Clare around the world. So why wouldn't I work with them on a project like this? It just grounds us in a very, very unique and interesting place. It's just windswept and it's wild, and yet at the same time you have all this kind of history of people trying to develop the place over time, like Cornelius O'Brien. So it just makes sense to me to do this. Great fun. Awesome.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, be really good.
Thanks for involving us. As we launch this collaboration, there's no way to know yet what direction it'll take for us. As we taste the whiskey during July and August, and hopefully share it with some club members passing through County Clare along the way, we'll learn more about the developing flavours and profiles. The casks will be removed from the tower in early September, and we as a club will then get to decide whether we want to bottle the contents of all 9 casks, whether we identify a couple of standout casks and bottle them, or whether we end up blending some of the contents together at JJ Corry's farm nearby. That's for us to decide when the time is right. These sips all have a story, many stories in fact, and we'll share them together over the next 2 months through a series of virtual events together, live in-person tastings, and perhaps even a meet-up to share the whiskey with one another once it's finally bottled. What excites me about this is the journey of the whiskey, learning about small cask maturation, learning about different types of sherry and the cooperage that made the casks, learning more about the Cliffs and their history, and ultimately sharing these whiskies with you once bottled. A big thank you to Louise and her team at JJ Corry for allowing us to be part of what is a personal, meaningful collaboration with the Cliffs of Moher for Louise, and we now get to share in her excitement too. Sláinte.